Welcome to Courageous Conviction. Remember that Jeff and I record each Saturday 5 episodes. So please hit the like button, subscribe so you catch all 5 episodes. We usually start out with one theme or topic. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes to really understand it. Some things are more sensitive than others right now, what's going on in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe, and let's jump into this video.
I think one day we should do a film of freeze dry, cook it up and then freeze dry it and show that whole process and the uniqueness. A freeze dry is $3,000 for a typical one, right?
Yeah, that company's out in Utah, and you leave it up to the LDS. We're going to come up with the most innovative ways of bringing that kind of food storage into home. And it's like I was telling you before. When we were offline, that we made a whole bunch of arroz con pollo. I'm like, what a awesome entree to have freeze dried, because it'll last 25 years after that. And rather than buy this stuff that's out there in the market that, is promoted as being good, we all cook at home, and those leftovers, I'm a chef. So as you say, so let's just make bigger batches, freeze dry them and put them into our food storage and say, this is the best of the best. We know what ingredients are going into it. You can buy organic ingredients. You can put the spices that you want to, that are gonna, during bad times, you're not gonna feel like you're not eating the right way, what I mean?
And that's the concern I get. I guess now the latest is the latest pamphlet that came out in the church, I think it was around 2019. I think Connor Boyack's going to cover that here. He does a super job. I want to do a video on this. I couldn't do a better job than Connor Boyack did on this. He's a fairly newer podcaster. He's got like 4,000 or 5,000 followers. But I think this guy's going to go someplace. He does a really good job on it, detailed research, and the comments and so forth, and citing the speeches given by the general authorities. Yeah, I guess the one that came in that is going to be a little bit controversial is, and I don't want to say this from the get-go, so I don't interrupt the flow of Connor Boyack, is that the latest suggestion is that we store away food for ourselves and our neighbors.
Yeah.
And I got a problem with that, because the parable of the 10 virgins, and Connor Boyack's going to talk about that. He'll get into that a little bit, and I'm just going to say this much. The reason I have a problem with it is this, down in Ecuador, for example, and Connor Boyack kind of talks about being a global church and why we don't talk about it, because maybe they don't have the ability to do that because they're poor. That's not true at all. In fact, I live with the poorest of the poor. I live with the natives and the native communities, right? In the native chapels, they speak their own native tongue, everything, right? So you can pretty much imagine in a lot of native communities that they're not exactly mansions these people live in, right? And so what they have their gardens, they have their land. The poor people have land, and they are better at self-sufficiency than we are. It's the wealthy that are a problem, not the poor people. So that part he's got a little bit wrong, because he doesn't understand. I've lived there, we've lived there, and I understand how these people are. Now, the people in Ecuador, like Bolivia, Peru, you can go to a lot of these places. The areas where the people are motivated, they have their own gardens. Where the people have been so distraught and the government's inflation so much, they have their own gardens. I'm talking about gardens. They have land, and they till it together as a community or a family, right? They have their space for their own food. Now, do they put it away? No. And in fact, my assignment was in the stake was to try to prepare them to use that garden to food storage, right?
Yeah, they have a living they have a living food storage there, in a way, so they, as long as their food storage is live and they've got growing season that's 12 months out of the year, they're always going to be able to rely on something. Maybe they have chickens as well, or goats and other things. These are important. But yeah, I think people need to process their food. We did, and we're used to that in the colder climates, because you can only harvest peaches one time a year. And then you bottle them. I remember growing up, and that's what we did. Our food storage was a rotation kind of thing, and we just, whatever we harvested at fall ended up being eaten throughout the winter, and could have gone into the next winter. If we had that extra food storage, we just labeled those as being, you don't want to go much past 2 years after that, but there's just that's just the way we do things up here. Down lower in the warmer climates, they're not used to doing that, and they need to become acclimated. I think that's what you're trying to say, right? That
Well, we try to teach them, right? And they have the ability to do it. Now,
right.
obviously, it's more expensive to get a freeze dryer, but it's not that expensive to get a dehydrator. But
Right.
dehydrated foods, you're going to get 5 to 7 years pretty much out of them, right? If you put them away properly, and
That's
so
enough.
and that's enough to have. We're encouraged right now to have 3 months of normal food, like you're talking about. So a freeze dryer is ideal because
Right.
you're not going on to the people just buy like their basic beans, rice, wheat, so they're going to eat boringly. Well, I don't. I buy these number 10 cans of a variety of different things, and I have the beans, rice, wheat, but that's to make things with, right? To cook with. So here's the important part of it. Two things I want to take away from this. One, it's a very important to have your food, but if you don't have 2 gallons a day per person for water, then don't worry about it because you're only going to last 3 to 4 days anyway, and the rest of the food's going to go to waste to somebody else who has their water. So number one priority is water. You have to have water before you need food. Right.
Right. So store water, but you also need to have water filtration, so some kind of gadget at least that will allow you to filter out water that is existing,
Sure, and that's not hard to get. You can go buy these straws even. They're cheap, $20
Right.
for a good straw that filters out 99.9% of all bacteria or et cetera.
Yeah.
For
I've got a water
backpackers.
bottle. I've got a water bottle for that is a survival backpack or whatever you want to call it. It's got a little extra bigger lid, but it filters everything, It's got the membrane on that,
Yeah, the missionaries carry them down, like now in South America. The missionaries have these water bottles that have these filters on them.
They use them.
And they use them, and that's
they
how
never get they never get giardia.
Yeah, and the point is that it's not that difficult to be a little bit prepared, right?
Yeah.
And why water? Well, why are we got to worry about water contamination? Well, that's a high, if we have any type of fallout or
big target.
Yeah, or something of that nature, your water is going to become contaminated. We got to think about those things. Not that I'm trying to say that that's probably the most unlikely situation, but you don't know what could take place. The other is, you can buy these big 55-gallon drums and these plastic ones and clean them out. It depends on what was in them, right? You can clean them out and you put a little Clorox in there, a couple capfuls of Clorox. So you can go online and look at what Clorox is safe to put in per gallon of water. And then you put that in, you put them away. Now, 55-gallon drum is a lot of water. So if you're thinking about having water for a year's supply, because we're encouraged. President Hinckley stated that there is going to come a time, and basically he's talking about, and I'm going to put it in my words now, basically talking about, because we are progressing towards breaking our American covenant with our Heavenly Father, we're forgetting about God, become more atheistic. There's going to come a time he's going to chastise us, and that's going to be a time for a period of 1 year. And we need to have that food storage and water set aside for 1 year to be able to pass through. And he said, this is what's going to filter out a lot of the members of the church. The Lord's going to clean his church through a famine. Now, is that coming? I don't know. But this has been a warning for years. And why isn't it being talked about right now? I think because the Lord talked about it so much. And I'm going to go back to it. And we didn't adhere to it. Look, even at best percentages, only 20% of the members had a 3 to 4 months food supply. 1 year food supply, Connor Boyack is going to talk about that. You're going to get into 5 to 7% of the members of the church. And that's very, very low. And so the shift went, remember we used to stay away from the government? Don't depend on the government. I was banging heads down in Ecuador with 70 during the whole, I got to be careful of the words I say now, during that whole illness issue when we were all locked up, right? And because they were telling everybody to go to the government for assistance. And we're saying, no, let's do the assistance here. My wife was in Relief Society. She actually got released from Relief Society because the Relief Society president, she was first counselor, was saying, we're going to get everybody on government assistance. My wife's, no, we're not. We're going to get everybody on their food storage and their families, and we're going to get them in their gardens, and we're going to teach them how to go out and do things. And no, it was Bishop got involved. It was just the state got involved. That my wife just finally said, you know what? You're on your own. And that's what I'm going to get to. We have a major earthquake. I grabbed my backpack. I got by my front door. I had a little 3-day bug out bags. Right. And that's because a pain in the butt keeping these backpacks there. My wife was like, why do you have these backpacks in front of our door?
I got them too. My wife was a stickler on them. You got to have them, and we go through and we update them because kids grow up and they get bigger. You got to have the right kind of clothes and whatever else. But yeah, I mean, I've got mine ready to go.
And it's very important. But those bug out bags, you have at least a few gallons of water there too to get you through that first day. Right.
And so a filter.
Yeah, in the filter too, because you're going to hope you're going to find other water because you don't have enough water in a bug out bag to go 3 days, right? But you're going to try to you can space it out because you got some water in your body. But that 3 day bug out bag is ideal for 3 days, 72 hours, and that's pretty much the emphasis in the church right now. It's just trying to get people to do 72 hours. When I was in the stake, my stake president said, "Look, Eric, I only want emphasis on 72 hours." I said, "All right, 72 hours, but that's not enough." He said, "We're going to start 72 hours." We worked 2 full years.
I thank you for being with us on Courageous Conviction. Remember, there's 5 episodes each week that we put out. We have to go down a lot of rabbit holes, so stay with us, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and don't miss tomorrow's episode on Courageous Conviction.